Well, I've been kicked out of my near every bar around. I've been locked up for driving 120 through town. I've been shot at and cut with a knife, messing around with another man's wife. But other than that, we ain't nothing, just good old boys. Threw my boss out the window and got fired from my last job. Hot-wired a city truck and turned it over in the mayor's yard. Beat my brother-in-law half to death. Lost 20 bucks on his football bet. But other than that, we ain't nothing, just good old boys. Good old boys, we're all the same. Ain't no...
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Wade and Carter Show. This morning, sans Ash. I have Commander Cody in the house. The commander's here to make things go smoothly. We've got a big show for you today. Lots of interesting stuff. I have done the work for you. You can simply sit back and enjoy the ride. We're going to have a great program. I purposely didn't listen to a lot of pundits this morning because I wanted to go with my research that started. I actually got up about 4:15 this morning, started poring over everything. There's lots to talk about. There's lots of precedents. There's lots of facts to share. You're going to hear a number of things over the next couple of days. I can tell you that you will just hear that. I'd like to welcome in the folks on Magic 95.9. I was just told there's dead air on Magic. If there is, that's on Magic.
Yeah,
it's not on us.
We're good. We're on. I can hear it.
So, welcome to radio, Magic 95.9. I'd like to welcome everybody in on the No Bull Network. If you're in any of the surrounding counties, I saw that Heather Stewart had checked in. She's probably listening on.
The Magic app is working fine.
Sure, we're great.
I can hear it.
We're great. It's great. I feel great. The course looks great. 100.1 in DeWitt County. Yeah, zero worries. We're live everywhere we need to be live. Those of you that are hearing us, and that's what matters to me. Let's do the Wade and Carter weather. It's brought to you by the great folks at AT Deerland Feed. Good morning, Kathleen Leininger. Folks at AT Deerland Feed, for everything you need, there's Deerland Feed. They can help you whether you need fence panels, gates, round bale holders, whatever you need, they've got it. Let's see what Lilo's telling me. Says we're on. All right. He says, what the hell? We're on. Okay. All right. Don't get wound up. We had a rarely ill-advised.
Sometimes there's a slight delay from when we start it till they get it.
Yeah.
So it may have just been in that delay. It may not have been ill-advised.
Ralph Salazar says Brother Gary wants to call. He may have to call later. We got a lot to talk about today. We'll catch the brother a little bit later. But Deerland Feed reminding you that right now it's 57 degrees in Victoria, and that is the low for the rest of the day. The high today will be 79. Should happen about 2 o'clock. About 2 o'clock will be the high. So let's just jump right into what really matters. And what really matters is Donald Trump and the Trump organization, if you will, the Trump administration, literally going in, arresting, exercising a warrant. Good morning, Allison Fox Dahlberg. We'd love for you to call later, maybe like 7:30ish. That'd be great. I've got notes for you. Very excited to visit with you. But the Trump administration literally going into Caracas, Venezuela, arresting Nicolas, as they're saying on the television now, Nicolas Maduro and his wife Cecilia. She was a Flores. Arresting them and bringing them back to New York. Trump administration saying, that's it. That's it. You're a narco-terrorist. You've literally exported tons of cocaine to the United States of America. You've been warned. You were told to surrender yourself. You did not. Therefore, we went and got you. Many people, some people, there's always going to be these apologists, these I call them leftists. I think they're leftists. You know, when I was dumb enough to run for mayor, I was telling people, look, I don't want these panhandlers on our streets. Find a reason and arrest them. Get them off our streets. Trespassing, impeding traffic. If they step off the curb, arrest them. Get them out of here. Never forget, the city attorney said to me, well, you can do that, but if you do, you're going to get sued. And I said, do what's right, though the heavens fall. Do what's right and deal with the consequences. Do what's right. That's why we have a city attorney, to fight that battle. That's not my problem. The people of Victoria overwhelmingly didn't want panhandlers standing on the corner. So let's get rid of them. Donald Trump just doing that on a hemispheric scale. That's all it is. I'm going to take you through it little bit by little bit. It's not very complicated. What the Donald did, absolutely legal. I saw two networks today when I got here. NBC, their legal expert said that, yeah, this is probably legal. We shall see, he said. He said, however, there is precedence, and the United States can probably do what it did.
They can do what they did because they did it.
And that's the point.
Right.
That's the point. They did it, and it needed to be done. The other thing is, I was trying to think of the other network. I want to quote them correctly. I think it was the BBC maybe said.
I think that's what it was on.
They're not positive that it's constitutional. Well, Constitution's not really involved in this, and I'll tell you why. So you go back. Look, I want you to know, this is the result. This is me, 4:30 in the morning.
That looks like a playbook over there.
It is. It is. We're going to audible. Red, pink. We're audibling. By the way, this is the best show of 2026.
Thank goodness.
The best show of 2026. So the issue with President, self-named Nicolas Maduro, 27 years the Chavez-Maduro regime has been in force over there. The problems that we have are this. Russia and China have been propping up Venezuela for years. For years. We call that European, non-Western hemisphere interference in our hemisphere. You have to go back to 1823, the Monroe Doctrine, President James Monroe. And I'll read you because I want to be accurate. The Monroe Doctrine, declared by President James Monroe in 1823, was a U.S. policy, is a U.S. policy, opposing European colonialism in the Americas, asserting that the Western Hemisphere was for new nations and closed to future colonization, while the U.S. would stay out of European affairs as a trade-off, establishing distinct spheres of influence. It became a cornerstone of U.S. foreign policy, later expanded by the Roosevelt Corollary. The Roosevelt Corollary came in 1904. And I'll even read that for you. So I want this to all be accurate for you. The Roosevelt Corollary, it's not that easy to say, Cody. Say it, Roosevelt Corollary?
I can't.
Okay, thank you. That was the right answer, because if you would have just blurted it out, I'd have felt really inept.
Never. Wouldn't do that to you.
It was in addition to the Monroe Doctrine stating that the U.S. had the right to intervene in Latin American nations to prevent European interference, especially to ensure debt repayment and stability, effectively positioning the U.S. as an international police power in the Western Hemisphere. While it was intended to keep European powers out, it justified numerous U.S. military interventions in the region leading to resentment among about the expanded American influence. So, interesting. What's happening is, so now you've got all these different factors. I'm going to give these to you. I'm not even reading responses right now because I've got notes. This is not fly by night. This is not fly by wire. So you got Russia intervening, getting in the middle of buying and selling crude oil out of Venezuela. You've got China helping the communist socialist regime era there as well. You've got Venezuelans powering their government by selling cocaine into the United States. Trump's been warning them all along, blowing up their drug boats. Perfectly fine. Love it. Actually like it a lot. So you have a lawful warrant for the arrest of President Maduro. Law enforcement, not military, law enforcement arrested President Maduro, backed up by United States military personnel, which is all perfectly legal. Perfectly legal. They could have just gone over there and assassinated the guy. Clearly, they could have. They arrested him in 30 minutes. It took them 30 minutes to arrest him. Hello, Sheriff Louderback. Good morning, State Rep from House District 30. Welcome in, sir. So my first clue that everything is going correctly is that Cuba is very upset about this. And they should be. Cuba could be next. They should be upset about this. So military force is allowed to enforce the serving and the execution of a warrant. So that's one thing to know. I can go back to a time in 2015 where a United States president named Barack Obama said that Nicolas Maduro is a national security threat to the interest of the United States. National security threat justifies intervention under Teddy Roosevelt's corollary. Also, there were immense human rights issues associated with the Maduro regime. So I can make all these justifications, or at least explanations, of why this is not against the Constitution. It was not an act of war. Congress, on two different channels today, I heard people say, well, Congress should have been consulted on this. Congress. Go back to the exact same Monroe Doctrine to realize that John F. Kennedy blockaded the island of Cuba to keep Russia from exerting its influence in the Western Hemisphere. Following the pattern here, he did not consult Congress on that. The Cuban Missile Crisis was handled out of the Oval Office between him and Bobby and a couple of packs of smokes. So for all the leftists that are going to be up in arms, Donald Trump's exerting his will all over the world. Well, welcome to the new world. Hats off to Donald Trump. Hats off to DJT. Trump says, we're going to run it. That's the quote that everybody's using all over the world today. Trump says he's going to run Venezuela. The rest of the quote says, we're going to run it until such time that we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. That's the rest of the quote. Trump saying he's going to take all the big oil companies, reinstate them. This is worth noting. 303 billion barrels of oil, the largest oil reserve on the planet that's documented, reside in Venezuela. Venezuela only produces 1.1 million barrels of oil per day. Contrast that with the United States, the top leading producer at the moment, somewhere between 10 and 12 million barrels per day. So the U.S. is producing 10 times the oil that Venezuela generates And yet, Venezuela has the single largest reserve on the planet. There's no doubt that the oil grab is part of the picture. There's no doubt that toppling the regime is part of the picture. There's no doubt that drugs are part of the picture. But any way you want to dice it up, it was the proper thing to do. It was worth invading Venezuela simply to eliminate Nicolas Maduro as dictator. Simply for that, it was worth doing. It was worth invading Venezuela after you've literally fired enough warning shots just to eliminate the narco transportation industry in Venezuela. And it is certainly worth it to invade Venezuela simply to keep the oil from flowing across the ocean. So any one of those issues on its own merits what happened. People are saying, how's this any different than Russia going into Ukraine? Good question. It is a good question. Ukraine wasn't poisoning Russia's people with drugs. Ukraine isn't falling victim to the Monroe Doctrine. I don't know what Russian doctrine they use except the doctrine of takeoverness. And Trump's, quote unquote, the air quote, Trump's war, if you will, it lasted 30 minutes. No boots on the ground. I've heard Cuba is reporting that 32 people died in the deal. The United States said we had 2 soldiers injured, both came home. I don't, you have to declare war or activity based on merit. You have to consider human life, but at the same time, if it's the right thing to do, then you just do it. Consequences be what they may. Yeah. So people get all upset about Congress not being consulted. Oh, okay, I did not know Michael was coming in. I'm very thrilled to have that. He's on his way. Okay, great. Obama dropped 92,000 bombs during his 8 years, none with congressional approval. None, not one. So let me do the roll call real quick. We've got a full day, a full and wonderful day for you folks. No kidding. Ricky King, Greg Garcia, Bobby Leister, first week. I saw Bobby Leister at HEB the other day. He was out doing some shopping. Marvin Mickish, Rena Shear, Linda Chris, Scott Tomko, Amanda Bloschke. Good morning, friend. Heather Stewart, Daniel Wade White, Lisa Poole, John Anderson, Heather Stewart, Funky Trey Molina, Randy Langston, Mark Zapata. I saw Mark Zapata on South Padre Island on Saturday morning at 6 o'clock in the morning at a stripe store. He was going fishing. We didn't do very good fishing this weekend. Junior Samples, Tammy Keeling, Andrew Alvarez, Mark Kurtz, Jarrett McCrugan, Micah Patton, school board president. Welcome in, sir. Kathleen Leininger, who helped us get the conversation we're going to have with Allison Fox. Wendy and Allison Fox, Dahlberg checking in. Wendy Hughes Garcia, Greg Garcia, Monty Howard. There you go. Great group. There's my mom. Good morning, Mother. Love you. Pat Matula checking in after his big New Year's Eve show. Sheriff Louderback. David Ballard. Dana Moore de la Garza. What a group. That's just on Facebook. You can watch us on Facebook. Scott Tomko, Junior Samples. You can watch us on Facebook. You can watch us on, I don't know what I just did. There we go. You can watch us on YouTube. Watch it all. There you go. We are here. Very fortunate to have the group that we've got. Love having you people in. So Donald Trump now calling the Monroe Doctrine the Don Road Doctrine. I like that. He says it's the Don Road Doctrine. The acting president, former vice president, appointed by Maduro, not elected, Her name's Delcy Rodriguez. She had originally said it was an oil grab, it's kidnapping. She has now said it's a priority to have a respectful relationship with Washington. I have a feeling that Donald Trump got word to her through Marco Rubio or somebody else that what happened to Maduro can happen to you. So fall in line and shut up. I have no problem with that. Parts of this have been brought to you through Reuters, parts through NPR. Very, very worth noting, the Monroe Doctrine. Now, all this stuff, it just lets you know all of it is subject to evaluation. Here's Trump on the Monroe Doctrine. You can just hear him talking too, folks. I'm not going to imitate him this morning, but the Monroe Doctrine is a big deal, but we've superseded it by a lot, by a real lot. They now call it the Monroe Doctrine. American dominance in the Western Hemisphere will never be questioned again. And I have no problem with that. And you shouldn't either. Stay over there. We'll stay over here. Don't come over here, China and Russia, 1,500 miles from Cuba, or go right across Cuba from Caracas, right across Cuba, and you're in Florida, 1,500 miles. He says Venezuela's oil business has been a bust, a total bust for a long period of time. Yeah, I do. You know what? I do. And the congressman may usurp Allison Fox, but I want Allison to stay involved because Michael's always busy. He won't be here very long, and then we'll get her on too because I definitely want to talk to Allison Fox. But I've got notes for Allison Fox. Then he's welcome to be here as long as he wants. Allison, you see how that works? Sitting Congress folks usurp Court of Criminal Appeals candidates, but we will certainly reschedule if necessary. I do want it to be necessary. I very much want to support you. They haven't really, let's see, I had a note in here about the 70s. The 1.1 million barrels per day is the lowest it's been since the 70s. So that's just part of the deal. That's part of it. 1/3 of what they were putting out in the 70s. So that gives you an idea right there. Allison Fox says, hi, no problem. Look, Allison, if you can call in tomorrow, that would be awesome. Really, very much would love to have you on. As much time as you want in the morning, by the way. So Trump says, we're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world. They're going to spend billions of dollars, fix the badly broken infrastructure, the oil infrastructure, and start making money for the country. In an answer to a question about the cost of running Venezuela, Trump said, it's not going to cost us anything because the money coming out of the ground is substantial. So Donald Trump, I don't even make any apologies for the fact that Donald Trump is saying, hey, all these oil fields were annexed, stolen, they were leases, it was part of the program. Chavez took them. Maduro continued that. Makes all of that, to me, worthwhile. I'm glad Trump is going over there. I'm glad he's doing it. He also says he's going to go back to a safe and proper transition back to a democratic regime. I have no problem with that either. I also have no problem with the fact that apparently some of our cyber-related defense mechanisms did a whammy number on, check this, Russian and Chinese anti-aircraft technology that had been given to Venezuela. Somehow something we did other than like flipping a breaker rendered Caracas almost completely in the dark with our troops going in and extracting Maduro in less than an hour. That's a powerful message to send to people like Vlad Putin. Just be aware. We have things that we can do that affect you. I saw Maduro this morning. I saw him being escorted from an armored vehicle to a government. I looked up the tail. It is N813FK. I looked up the Bell Jet Ranger helicopter owned by the government. But it didn't say, had no logo. It just had a tail number on it. You can look that up. You can go to tail letter lookup, and you can look up who owns any aircraft. The government owns that aircraft. They flew Maduro over to New York, put him in another armored vehicle, and a huge procession of law enforcement vehicles took him downtown to be processed. He and his wife, Cecilia, could take several hours, they said, to get him processed. But he's going to face his indictments in American courts under American jurisdiction. I think it's fantastic. I think it sends a message to the rest of the world. Be very careful. You're on our hemisphere. There's no doubt who the big dad is in the United States, in this region. It's us. The Americas are going to be dominated by the United States of America. So worth noting. A couple other quick points. I need to take a break. That is due process. You're right, Andy Alvarez. We're going to take him from place to place and provide him due process. Folks, real quick, I'm just going to name them. Palace Bingo, USA Concrete Coatings, Vera Cruz Restaurant, The Chopping Block, Allen's Wrecker Service, White Trash Services, Chestnut, Paravita Wellness, and the Vita Cafe, Went Services, Atzenhofer, Brand Us, First State Bank of Louise, Cowboys update, they suck. There you go. You have it. Oh. Don't ever doubt me. Oh. Well, I had the Cowboys going 9-8. Ash had them going 10-7. They went 7-9-1. If they'd have won yesterday, if, woulda, coulda, shoulda, and they should have beaten the Giants, they'd have been 8-1. I would have taken that as a moral victory for my 9-8. Instead, I also overestimated the quality of the Cowboys' play to leave them rendered useless at 7-9-1.
They were close.
Some real quick notes before the congressman gets here. Uganda, this is the be glad you live in America moment. Uganda's banning live broadcasts of the riots ahead of their election. You may say, well, why are they rioting? They're fixing to have an election. They have a free election in Uganda. Why are they rioting? Ugandan government calling that an unlawful procession. It's not a riot. It's an unlawful procession ahead of the election, again, of President, they call him President, Yoweri Museveni. Not Mussolini, Museveni. He's extending his 40-year rule in Uganda. Be glad you're an American. Be glad that we have elections every 4 years and that, for the most part, they're peaceful and productive. Greenland. Here's the latest on Greenland. Everybody seems to agree, who takes the time to understand, that a U.S. military presence in Greenland is required for our future defense. Russia can come right over. It's important. It is important. Trump had joked about making Greenland like, the 52nd state after Canada. He makes some light jokes about it. But the reality is Greenland is part of Denmark. They have a prime minister, and they have a king in Denmark. I don't care about their politics, but they have a king. They have a prime minister who still has some responsibility for what's going on in Greenland, even though since 1979, Greenland has had what we call home rule. They rule themselves, but they're still like part of the Denmark Empire, if you will. Trump says an American presence in Greenland is essential to both the United States sovereignty and our self-defense, but also to the defense of the EU. And Trump went so far as to say the EU knows it. They know that I'm telling you the truth. I was watching the BBC this morning. Parliament, basically, it wasn't Parliament, but in Parliament, they were discussing the fact that Denmark and the U.S. and Greenland, they need to work this out among themselves. The Brits basically saying, not my circus, not my monkeys. And as a result, to me, that somewhat reinforces the idea that there may be some logic to the United States having a serious military presence in Greenland. So be aware of that. The problem lately, Stephen Miller, one of the chief negotiators, he's a very, very trusted right-hand guy of the president. Stephen Miller's wife put out a silhouette of the shape of Greenland with an American flag over it, and she put soon on social media. And you know what? Rightfully so. It really offended the prime minister of Greenland. I can't disagree. You know, I can't disagree. But they've only had a home rule since 1979. There's a really good chance that Britain and the EU will both benefit. You know, you had Brexit, but Britain and the EU will both have that to deal with. So I've taken the liberty of usurping our visit with Allison Fox, who, by the way, I spent some time reading in depth about Miss Fox, and I have some really good questions for her. This is a sharp, sharp lady. First of all, I don't know if she's still listening, but hook 'em horns. She's a Texas graduate, and then she went to St. Mary's Law School. And she's had Bexar County District Attorney Office, criminal Court of Criminal Appeals, or the criminal, the court. If it was the Criminal Court of Appeals, that'd be bad. It's the Court of Criminal Appeals. Lots of experience, lots to talk to her about, and we will do that tomorrow. So hook 'em horns, and I can't wait. I've got some good stuff. Tomorrow will be a good program. So we've talked about Uganda. We've talked about Greenland. Let's see if I can get the congressman to come in here. He's having a conflab over there. Is he raising money? What's he doing over there? Okay. I didn't want to interrupt if he was raising money. You feel free, sir. Just walk right through. You're a congressman of the United States. I mean, don't apologize. Let me
coffee now and everything.
No, we got you under control. So we're very proud to be joined by our congressman. You're a congressman. Lots of you that are listening in this region. Congressman Michael Cloud, good morning, sir. Do you have room for what you need? You can certainly.
Good morning.
You can certainly take over that corner of the desk.
Appreciate it.
Very proud to have you here. Good morning. How are you? How's your family?
Thank you. It's good. Of course, it's great to be home for Christmas for a couple of days and spend some time with the kids. Our oldest was back from college, so great time. Appreciate it.
I think you'd be proud of me. I don't know if you listened on the way in, but I not only detailed the importance of the Monroe Doctrine,
yes.
1823,
yes.
I also followed up with Teddy Roosevelt's corollary of 1904,
wow,
which allows us to intervene in these situations. And I pointed out that as pertains to the Trump administration and Venezuela, that whether we look at it from getting rid of a dictator who's propped up by Russia and China right in our backyard, or we're getting rid of a narco-terrorist who's been wanted for drug trafficking tons of cocaine into the United States, or we're protecting United States corporations' interest in the oil business that were taken by Chavez and Maduro.
Right.
Any one of those, to me, would justify the extraction of President Maduro.
It's huge, really. And in a sense, it was a law enforcement action that has geopolitical consequences.
Right.
And so he was wanted. He's been indicted here in the United States. His crimes are not disputed. They're accepted.
Obama.
Yes.
Barack Obama in 2015 said he's a direct threat to national security.
Exactly. And so we've gone in, we've taken him out. He was offered. I thought it was very interesting how Marco Rubio talked about he had several offers to just leave.
Right.
And
he chose not to.
Chose not to. So we went in, we took him out, and the people of Venezuela are
Ecstatic.
super
They're
excited about it.
celebrating in the streets.
And our people are safer because of it. And you know, we think just a year ago, Kamala was talking about finding the root causes of, you know, the trafficking that was going on in the United States. Well, here we are dealing with the root causes.
There they are.
For real this time.
Yes, sir.
We've secured the border. Now we're going out. And if you listen to the press conference of everything that's going on, and keep in mind where we were when President Trump came into office. We were looking at, we were on a managed decline in the United States. Power and wealth was shifting from the west to the east. This, you know, I've talked about this before, but this is something the intelligence community assessed 20 years ago.
Yes, sir.
And we had done very little about it. And they said it was a virtual certainty this will continue. And President Trump said, well, this doesn't have to happen. They prescribed why it was happening. They said, we're sending manufacturing overseas and we're sending oil and gas revenues overseas. Well, what do we see this administration doing? He says, well, why don't we bring manufacturing back and why don't we
crack down?
crack down on that?
Amen.
And so in all of this is they were helping to uphold Iran, certainly China. China, again, when we're looking to where the world was, President Trump coming in, China's making a play for world dominance. And all of this is not only very effective for what it is on face value, but it's strong messaging to China, like, hey, you might want to think twice about your global ambition.
I think so too. I think that was part of it is a big deterrent type statement. I'm really concerned about. So my observation has been that since Russia can't beat Ukraine in a war, Russia is keenly, to me, it's observable that they're in decline, that they're broke, that they don't really have what they need. They're forcing people into the military. Russia is in trouble. I could see China saying, hey, we're going to help you guys out. Work with us. With China knowing that later on they could always squash Russia if they wanted to. I mean, I think they're saying, hey, come with us. We'll have a unified nuclear threat that intimidates the West. And I think Trump's just unintimidable.
They've been cooperating for quite some time. So that kind of partnership is, I think, assumed in the calculus of all this. But what we see here is we're making America strong again, you know, and we're respected again. You know, I've dealt with our State Department a number of times over the last few years, you know, and we talked on the show about, you know, when we withdrew from Afghanistan and the debacle that was.
Yes, sir.
And we were actually working against the State Department to get people out. You know, we had planes loaded with people friendly to the United States. You know, I had all their IDs and such on my phone. And anyway, the Taliban was willing to let them leave, and our State Department was holding them there.
Right.
You know, when we went down to get people, the American citizens out of Turks and Caicos, our State Department was more concerned under the Biden administration about not offending the leadership of Turks and Caicos than they were about us getting they wanted to keep that cozy relationship for the State Department employees who were there and having, you know, stationed there, as opposed to getting our Americans out. And so this administration understands it's more important to be respected than liked. You know,
Amen.
That doesn't mean we're going around trying to offend everybody necessarily, but we're going to do what needs to be done to protect American citizens and protect our borders and to have dominance in this hemisphere.
So you're the right guy to ask about this, because I pointed out that, like, during the Cuban Missile Crisis, before you were born,
Yeah, that was.
during the Cuban Missile Crisis, John F. Kennedy didn't consult Congress. He did what he thought needed to be done. He used the Monroe Doctrine to do so.
Yeah.
And said, we're not going to put up with it. As a member of Congress, are you personally offended that the president didn't come to you and say, here's what we want to do?
As a member of Congress who sat in the classified briefings with hundreds of members, recognizing that if you just go through the list, I'm not going to sit here and name them all, but you know some that who proclaimed that their allegiance is not first with the United States.
Right.
They're sitting in these intelligence briefings. So I'm thankful for the fact that we have a president who realizes the mission's important. The men and women who are out there executing the plan, their lives are important enough
Amen.
for us to do it right. And I'm not offended at all. I've sat in enough meetings that have leaked with just 10, 20 people in it.
That's right.
Put a few hundred people in it. And it's, you know, it would be detrimental to the mission. And so.
Well, so when Trump says he's going to run we're going to run the country, if I'm getting what he's saying. Until such time as a certifiable democratic election can be held and a government that's friendly with the U.S. can be installed. Is that, I mean, how will he do that? Just through dignitaries? Or?
What's not going to happen is we're not going to leave a power vacuum that leads to anarchy, right? And so you have to have some sort of stability until elections can be held, or whatever the mechanism is going to be to make sure that this country moves forward like it should. And what we're not talking about is what we saw in Iraq, where we're there for decades, and and that kind of thing. And President Trump and his administration have demonstrated that several times. That is not their desire. They're not wanting to manage every single country. What they do want here is for us to not have wasted the victory that's just been won.
Right.
And to make sure that we do not continue to have, when I would talk to kids going to schools and the like, and trying to explain geopolitics to them, and just, have them have a little lens beyond their neighborhood and our country, is to talk to them about why we have Alaska and Hawaii, for example. It's not so we have a hot and a cold place to go on vacation, right?
Right.
This was the securing off points that protected the United States from invasion. Like we wake up never worrying about invasion. That's not something that's on our mind.
That's right.
And it's because of the strength the United States had in this hemisphere for some time. Well, that's been eroding over the last several decades. We have a narco state to the south of us. We have a socialist country to the north of us, and much of Central South America has tended towards socialism because of our waning. And what's happening is the State Department guiding doctrines over the last couple of decades are being exposed,
right,
for the impotent, ineffective thing that they were. So,
it's very interesting that you're hearing less and less out of Claudia Sheinbaum. You just don't hear much out of her. Early on, she was very up in Trump's face. If you're going to tariff us, we're going to tariff you. And last week, she announced that Mexico was also about to start tariffing goods in and out of China. I don't know if that means that there's some type of a détente between Mexico and the Trump administration, or if she's just finally seen the light that he saw. What do you make of, if you have a thought on that, I'd love to have that. I've got a question.
Well, I'd just say, being an elected official in Mexico is a challenging situation.
You're part of the cartel, aren't you?
You step out of line, and we've seen that story happen several times. We've gone as part of a delegation to meet with members of Congress, and they serve for one term, which means every time we meet with them, there's somebody else. But it also means that the power structure is somewhere else other than their government. So and I'm not making excuses for them. They've allowed this to happen over decades to their country. It's sad. And hopefully we'll be able to, as we continue to make strong statements and strengthen our borders and do all the things that demonstrate that we are back, in a sense, as a country.
Amen.
They'll be able to turn the corner and come alongside.
What's the end game, and what do you see, if there is anything other than just the transparent motive of national security? What is Trump's real goal with Greenland?
With Greenland, you mentioned Greenland. I was there last year. Visited the space base we have there.
I heard Nancy Pelosi bought some waterfront lots and was just betting on the come over there. So,
yeah. We'll that's a whole different issue.
Right.
But
he says no comment.
Right.
But to truly we can get into that's whole
he and Nancy
different
have a
topic.
timeshare now.
That's
nice.
Her investment portfolio
Right.
beats the market, and we need to fix that as well. But to truly understand Greenland, you have to not look at a map, but look at a globe and look at it from the top of the world.
Russia?
Yeah, it's just as far from D.C. to Greenland it is from Greenland to Moscow,
Wow.
And so we went and saw what's going on there. It's part of our missile shield. I can't get in, obviously, all the details, but it's important that we dominate that area. It'd be like just having other assets from other countries that don't want the best in mind, just a few hours offshore. So it's important that we continue to have a presence there, and that we even have a stronger presence there. And how we do it, there's a number of ways to do it. And so, but Greenland is important and extremely important to making sure that this hemisphere is secure.
You've never been here when I had notes, but look at that. I want you just to look at that. I have notes.
wow.
Today I was taking a look like as Rush Limbaugh taking this very seriously today. No, but Trump, the latest upset, hurt feelings from Denmark is that Stephen Miller's wife put an American flag, superimposed it over a map silhouette of Greenland, and wrote "soon" above it and put it on Twitter or X. And the prime minister said as much as, well, if annexing us or not annexing, he goes, not annexing, but if us having a cooperative agreement is important, then we should discuss it formally and with respect. Don't just, put your flag over we're a sovereign group is what he's saying. And the king of Denmark, amazing, and the prime minister, so they've only had home rule in Denmark since Greenland since 79. And it sounds like they're amicable or open to the idea of the United States having a large presence there where there's only 60,000 people in Greenland. It's like Victoria being on a continent.
Right.
And
you basically have the space base on one end, Nook on the other end, and then you have a number of indigenous tribes throughout. Some who we got to meet, by the way, it was a pretty neat experience. But
are that
see the
what
dog
we would
sledding.
think of as Eskimos? Similar?
I
Right.
don't want to. Yeah, probably. I guess.
I mean,
in layman's term, I don't know.
In layman's terms, you're like, no, they're like Greenlanders.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
exactly. Well, I don't. Yeah, I don't know the official terminology. So, but in a sense, like whoever's governing Denmark to them makes very little difference. They're out,
Right.
In their canoe, digging through ice, getting food for that evening for their families, and live a completely different lifestyle
It's
and,
like
and like it
Bloomington.
and want it to be. But I don't think there's a lot of ice in South Texas. But so for them, who's the geopolitics of what's going on really doesn't affect their lifestyle.
Right. We could just have a huge base up there somewhere and put a wall around it and everything would be fine.
Yeah, we were there, and it happened to correspond with an annual thing they have where the groups from around these indigenous tribes come to the space base, and they have like a
Raw fish fest.
yeah, it's kind of funny because everybody brings their food, but the thing that's the most popular to the indigenous tribes is the pizza that evening. You have like everybody spent hours and hours on all these different kind of things, and
Domino's delivers pizza.
Right. So it's a whole different experience. There's not a lot of different chains up there, as you can probably imagine. There's one place to eat and hope you like what they're serving.
Quick aside, you've been on a number of diplomatic trips and things. Have you been in that situation where, like, the advisor to the group goes, now tonight they're going to serve, so just eat it. It'll look good if you don't eat it.
I'm not going to go into specifics, but yeah, for sure. I've been, that isn't part of my normal palate. It's like, hey,
I don't want the bat soup. Okay.
This is for peace.
Right. Yeah, that's crazy.
It's hard.
When do you have to go back to D.C.?
This morning we're headed to the oil field. Got 3-4 meetings today, and then this afternoon flying up.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And what are you expecting to be, and what do you have like prior to the emergencies? It seems like every day there's an emergency of some type. What do you have on the agenda coming up in the next couple of weeks?
We head straight into January 30th. We have another funding deadline. We remember the Schumer shutdown.
What do you anticipate on this one?
A lot of it's up to the Dems, and they don't allow me in their strategy sessions. So
you don't chair Democrat session?
What we're getting from the appropriation standpoint is that they want to work with us this time. They realized that wasn't good for them. It wasn't good for the nation. People saw through it for the veneer it was, and so they want to work with us on it. So we'll see what that means as we move over the next few weeks. We passed 3 of the 12 appropriation bills so far. I thought we should have passed another 3 or 4 before leaving in December, but that didn't happen. So we still have a lot of work to do between now and January 30th to get the government funded and moving in the right direction. And then we've got to get on our DOJ subcommittee, we got to get our DOJ subcommittee working again and working with the administration on, cleaning up, and a lot's been revealed even over Christmas with Minnesota, and
all
and
the
that's happening in
Somali
other states
fraud.
too. Maybe not quite to the extent of Minnesota, but it's happening other places as well. And so we've got to rein in the fraud and get a good return on investment to our American citizens.
Man, what a bonus for us. I want to give you so we had I think I talked to well, you and I spoke over the weekend, but I also talked to Mark, and I wasn't sure what your schedule was going to be. And I said, if you can come. We had an interview scheduled this morning with ALISON Fox, who is running for the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals. She's running to be a
Allison.
judge. No, and she said, I'm glad to yield the floor to the congressman today. I can come in person tomorrow morning. So I'll
awesome.
get you all those
Okay.
details.
Well, thank you,
And
Allison.
that's awesome. And I can't wait to visit with her.
Yeah.
I have some really good questions for her that she's going to go, you actually read my bio. You have some thoughtful things. I had another question for you that was actually important. I'm not joking. Oh, why is it? I mean, it doesn't take much. Our audience, as you know, is very astute and gets it. But how can it be that the Democrats, with no support from the Republicans, initiated the Affordable Care Act and got all that rolling? It required at the time government subsidy to make it work.
Yeah.
And now that it can't stand on its own, still again, and the Republicans have to say, which, by the way, I'm willing to extend those tax credits because I don't think it had any real effect on me. I'll extend those tax credits for 5 more years if they'll admit I need the head shock, maybe Chuck Schumer should stand up and say, look, the Affordable Care Act is anything but affordable without the supplements of the United States government, without taxpayer supplementation.
In a sense, that's what they admitted, because we had the quote Affordable Care Act. It wasn't affordable enough, and so they had to add extra.
But they blame it
support
on
for
you
it, but-
guys, and that's it's one thing if you're like,
Yeah,
we're standing
well,
in the middle, and
right,
you and I
but-
both know it's a left problem.
I
They're
think the
making it a
American people
right
are starting to
problem.
read through that though,
Yes, sir.
because I mean, their lies and the false premises are just being exposed constantly, and they'll be for something when it's convenient and against it completely, the next day because Trump supported it or now, So,
Well, we've talked about the 90-10 issues, and they're on the 10% side all the time.
But I'll say this, though, the way that our government grows constantly is we'll put out a program that's temporary, and then knowing that the deadline, when it comes in, we're going to kick the can down the road. Oh, we'll just extend it 2 more years. We'll just extend it 3 more years. There is so much waste, fraud, and abuse in these programs. We've got to get rid of that,
Yes, sir.
and we should be able to do that without affecting even the people it was designed for, and save the American people literally billions and billions and billions of dollars. And that's billions of dollars that not only is not going to good things, it's actually going to bad things. It's going to things that are
Right.
destabilizing communities and bringing much harm. And so we've got to be bold and really, I mean, what it comes down to right now is we have a thin majority, and there's just 3 or 4 Republicans who for some reason can't get there on the votes, which is extremely disappointing to me. I mean, for me, it's like we just got to be able to get there and do what we said we were going to do. And a lot of that's getting rid of the waste, fraud, and abuse and making sure we're returning good return on investment to the American taxpayer.
Absolutely. I'm looking at a post from Donald Trump on Truth Social. He talks about country of birth, and then he says the percent of immigrant households receiving government assistance in the United States. Is it Bhutan, Bhutan? 81.4%. Yemen, 75.2%. Somalia comes in third.
Yeah.
71.9%
Right.
of Somalians in the United States receive some type of government assistance. Absolutely contrary to, say, like a Teddy Roosevelt who said, come here, assimilate, learn the language, get a job, and contribute.
Yeah, this is, most people know my wife's a naturalized citizen. And so we are for people coming to our country. But this is not the vision we had where somebody shows up on the shores with $100 in their pocket, works real hard, builds a business, their kids live the American dream. This is not what's happening in this respect, is people coming here and just mooching off the taxpayer. They don't hold our values. They don't hold an understanding of what it takes to make a nation, a community, a family great. And all of that is part of the process. Like, even I'll just say, even from biblical terms, because a lot of people will, Matthew 25 seems to be the only scripture they know when it comes to this, and they take it out of context.
Give it to me.
It's just about helping your neighbor and those kind of things. If immigration came with assimilation. It's like if you can be part of the community, but you're going to adopt the policy,
Right.
and you're going to adopt the customs of the community. And so, it's just crazy to even want to come to the United States and not accept those. But you have people coming here to undermine the country, as opposed to
That
be
is
part
their
of it and
job.
help build it.
It is observable, and it always comes back to me that the Asian community, there's not a lot of public school where they're teaching people in Korean or Japanese. And yet, percentage wise, the Asian community comes here, embraces the opportunity, works super hard. Their kids end up being, in stereotype, I say, smart or dumb, Asian, smart, super smart. That's the perception. They're all great students. So that it's possible to take advantage of the opportunities in this country if you want to.
Well, we have
assimilate.
generation after generation after generation of people have come all over the world and applied themselves.
Yes, sir.
And
Even the Italians.
yeah, well, at one point in our country, that was considered,
Right.
minority, and
But not the Irish, not so much the Irish.
But and so we've been through this cycle a few times in a sense, but when people come here and they build and they work hard, it was the land of opportunity, and that's what's been promised, is the opportunity, not a guaranteed handout by the federal government.
Look into your crystal ball. Kathleen Leininger says these fraudsters, which is, by the way, a Tim Waltz term, these fraudsters are being helped in applying for government money. Are we looking at locating those folks and holding them accountable too? I mean, Minnesota's so rampant with fraud, it's got to be somewhere in their state government.
Yeah, and a lot of latitude was given to the states to manage these programs with no sort of incentive to make sure that they were being done properly, and that's one of the big problems. And then the Obamacare expansion came along and then actually further incentivized to the tune of 7 times more financially to get people who should be in the workforce, single adults, no
Right.
dependents, to get them onto Medicaid, for example, when they could and should be out in the workforce, but we're paying them to stay home. And, so there's a lot of work to be done when it comes to that. And we do need prosecutions as well. I mean, I'm in the legislative branch, so the thing we're focused on is fixing the pots of money and the systems and bringing accountability. We can investigate things and expose them, and then we hand that over to the DOJ. And I'd like to see a lot more action there. But I will say 2 things. One, there's so much fraud and criminal activity that's happened over the last bit that it is just a massive undertaking. Having said that, we should be seeing people going to jail.
Yes, sir.
And so that needs to continue to happen. We, from an investigative standpoint, and certainly on the oversight committee, can continue to expose what's going on and bring light to it. And then we need to see action from the DOJ to follow up on that.
I tell you something, I'm sure there is legislation pending or already in place, but we need you guys to clean up the census situation where you can't just, for example, open up the Tijuana border, let tens of millions of people flood into California, and then decide that those people all need representation in Congress.
Right.
You can't do that. We've got to find a way to, if you're not an American citizen, you're not in the census.
We've been working several times to get the citizenship question on to the census. Worked to get it on last time. I mean, that's the only question that, in a sense, are you here? Are you a citizen? I mean,
Right.
I would be fine with that kind of census. The rest of it's designed really to help fund government programs. But you look through, and they'll say that's so invasive to ask if you're a U.S. citizen. But
Wow.
you read through, especially the long form citizenship of like, what do you drive to work? When do you leave? How many miles away?
Right, exactly.
It's just the kind of questions
What's
that
your
get asked.
license number?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, not to mention now, the government has been, at least we're working to clean this up too, but buying data from cell phone companies and those kind of
Right.
things and creating profiles and all that kind of stuff. So, you know,
That all goes back to
ask it,
9/11.
and I can say as the spouse of someone who came to our country and filled out a census form, does not consider it at all, you know,
Invasive. Right?
It's like
Amen.
in any other country, of course you're asked this question, you know.
Sure. Well, or you don't show up there and say, I want a cell phone and some free health care
Right,
and
right,
$10,000. So
Right.
you won't believe this, but we have absolutely reached the top of the hour.
Oh,
And,
wow.
I want to tell you, so I get to say this for the first time to you. Thank you so much for joining us in Atzenhofer Studio.
Oh.
The Atzenhofer dealership is celebrating 100 years in 2026. Fourth generation of a family-owned dealership. I asked Tommy Taylor, how many other Chevy dealers are still owned by the same company, same family?
100
And he goes, not many. So,
Yeah.
very insightful answer. No, but
He's also our first guest of 2026.
first guest of 2026.
That's worth a little
on the
something.
best show of 2026.
Hey.
So we appreciate it very much. I wish you safe travels. I know our audience is unashamed that they pray for you often.
Yeah,
I know
thank
it
you.
matters to you, and I know it matters to him. So thank you for what you're doing. Godspeed. Stay the course. Keep us in mind down here. And thank you always, sir, for your availability for stopping by.
Well, thank you.
We
God bless y'all.
appreciate it.
Happy New Year.
You have a final word for your constituency?
Well,
I'll
just
let you
Happy New Year to everybody. Thanks for all the prayers, as you mentioned, and you know, we've got some hurdles ahead of us, so keep us in prayer as we go forward. And God bless y'all.
Amen. That's Congressman Michael Cloud. Thank you, as always, sir, for being here. Folks, have a great Monday. You can't win the week if you don't win Monday. Get out there and get after them. Bye-bye.
Well, I've been kicked out of my near every bar around. I've been locked up for driving 120 through the town. I've been